Good morning, everybody. I'm Eli Beckman. I'm the mayor. We've also got Rebecca Vaughn, the assistant town manager and town clerk on the line. We've got RJ Suko, director of public works. We've got Mike Moriarty, our code enforcement officer. We may have one or two other staff members, department heads joining us later on in the morning, but for now, we'll go ahead and get started. So I just wanted to start with a quick update for everybody. As I think everyone knows, Marin is continuing with its slow, cautious reopening, even as our caseloads here continue to increase. We're seeing that all up and down the state. You're seeing some counties like San Francisco and LA are actually pausing or even reversing their openings. I'm pretty sure Governor Newsom just closed LA's bars again. So I think what that really underscores for us is how high the stakes are, right? Because if we get lax on our social distancing, if we start letting up on wearing masks and caseloads get out of control here, we're going to be back in a second shutdown, and that would be hugely damaging to all of us. So I think it's critical that we all, stay vigilant with your social distancing, keep your mask on whenever you're around other people, whether indoors or outdoors. If you can't be 6 feet away from people outdoors, you have to wear a mask. That's per the governor's orders. And we do this not just for ourselves, but for other people and to protect our economy. I think a lot of people realize that our jobs are on the line here. If we wind up in a second shutdown, it's going to be real bad news. So I just wanted to open up with a reminder there. It's heavy news, but cases are rising in Marin, and we do need to be careful. So with that, I guess some happier news is we've got a dog park now. So Town Bark, as it's called, is open over in the corner of Town Park, right behind Pet Club. So that's exciting news. I know that residents have been looking forward to that for years. That was something when I was campaigning in 2018, going door to door, asking people what they wanted to see in town. Dog park was a huge one. So we're happy we finally got that. I'll just remind everyone that also you can now walk your dogs on leash in all of our parks. So I think Corte Madera has taken big strides over the last couple of years to be more pet friendly. So anyway, I'm going to open it up for questions from the public, unless any of our staff members that are on the line want to give any quick updates on anything. I don't know. Yeah, Rebecca.
Mayor Beckman, I would just like to, the video for last night's Parks and Recreation Commission meeting will be posted hopefully later today, but our Parks and Recreation Director, Ashley Howe, announced to the commission that keep an eye on our town's social media accounts through Instagram and Facebook with Parks and Rec Department, and they will be posting a virtual ribbon cutting and virtual tour of the new dog park facilities and announcing the name. So that's exciting. We haven't had a virtual ribbon cutting before, but they're being really creative with it, and it should be posted, I think, later today.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, great. Any members of the public on the line, if you want to ask us anything or discuss anything, go ahead and put your hands up. We are going to start with Jonna here. Let's get Jonna on the line.
Can you hear me?
Good morning, Jonna. Yes.
Hi, good. I'd like to include Parks and Rec, Public Works, and Planning in my comments on this issue, since it relates to conversations that have occurred involving each of those departments. And I will send them as an email after the community chat's over. During the past several years, the Corte Madera Community Foundation's been developing as our next major project a trails, paths, and steps improvement program. And we've done a lot of research on the history as well as the current condition of existing trails, paths, and steps in Corte Madera with the intent of engaging the town as well as other community organizations in partnering with the foundation to make them safer and more accessible for citizens to use. They're not only useful in getting around town without driving, but they're essential as evacuation routes in emergencies. In recent years, the town has spent millions of dollars making improvements to Corte Madera's streets and sidewalks, but virtually nothing on making the town's public trails, steps, and paths safer and more accessible. The foundation's willing to take the lead on setting up a working group with other local volunteer organizations such as the Lions Club, the Women's Club, the Beautification Committee, Age Friendly Corte Madera, the Twin Cities Disaster Preparedness Committee, the NRGs, and any others who may want to participate in developing a collaborative project to correct that omission. The foundation has a grant program that can provide some funding to jumpstart the effort, and we'd like to get an indication of support from the town so we can begin reaching out to the other local groups whose support will help to move this project forward. That's it.
Thank you, Jonna. Thanks. Do any of our staff members want to speak to that real quick, or do we want to address this offline?
Sure, I'm happy to offer a couple points. So, you know, we have, I would say, done some maintenance, you know, certainly not the full restoration of the SLPs and whatnot that I know much of the community is looking forward to. But we've done some clearing of vegetation and minor repairs here and there of, you know, some of the safety hazard stuff. I believe it was one of the prior Tuesday meetings, there was a comment about, in particular, the Tanner steps. And so we've started an effort to look into that, reached out to someone who specializes in historical analysis. So that's something that I believe we committed to, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be reaching out to further that discussion with you and others. And also, I think the BC may have been the one to present that. And so, you know, we'll have some options and next steps that'll come out of that related to the Tanner steps. And then also, I don't know if you had a chance to attend the climate adaptation plan workshop the Thursday before last, but you know, that's definitely a component and one of the strategies we want to expand on and really look at opportunities to improve connectivity, improve the facilities. We actually had a meeting last week, and Council Member or Vice Mayor Kuhnhart was part of that, and he spent a lot of time looking at the SLPs in Christmas Tree Hill neighborhood in particular. And so, you know, our project team met with him for over an hour and really tried to better understand the options there. So it's you know, there's a vast network, and there is stuff going on behind the scenes. You know, perhaps maybe not at the rate at which the community would like to see it happen, but I do want to say it's not being completely ignored, and we do understand that's an asset that the community enjoys. So
I really appreciate that, and I am aware of those discussions that are going on. In the past, when the foundation has taken the lead on getting some projects that seem to be stalled moving forward, it always helps to put a little money on the table. And that's why I mentioned that we do have some grant funds that can be used to either jumpstart the project in some way, such as maybe paying for a little expert advice on historical considerations, such as with the Tanner steps. I do want to make just one other comment. In the work that we've been doing over several years that have made some improvements on maintenance of the paths, particularly in the hills, it became evident to us that people and businesses who have properties in the former tidal zone, what we sometimes refer to as the flatlands, have pretty good paths and trails to use, mostly along the high canal and the low canal, which are well maintained by the town and lead to the schools and are generally considered safe and accessible to use. So the focus of the efforts that are still awaiting attention are in the hills, not only on Christmas Tree Hill, but on other parts of Corte Madera Ridge and on Chapman Hill, because those are really, really important in evacuating in case of emergency, and they need a lot of attention. And so our main focus is on what to do about providing safe and accessible trails, paths, and steps in the hills. And we'd be happy to work with you on that. We've done a lot of research on it, and we're ready to raise the visibility of this omission that needs attention. Thanks.
great, thank you. Yeah, we're absolutely happy to collaborate.
Thanks, Jonna. Thanks for bringing that up. That's an important point. You know, these steps, lanes, and paths are, I think, an awesome local amenity. I think they're very much part of the identity of, you know, communities like Hillside, Corte Madera, and Mill Valley, and places like that. And they're also, as you said, critical evacuation infrastructure. So we look forward to partnering with the foundation on getting that moving forward in the future. And thanks again for bringing that up. All right. Anything else, Jonna?
No, that's it for today.
All righty. Thank you very much. All right. And one thing, since Jana mentioned the Corte Madera Community Foundation, that reminded me one thing that I wanted to mention to everybody also, which is that Corte Madera has partnered with the Community Foundation to establish a $75,000 COVID housing assistance fund. And that's basically direct housing assistance right to our most vulnerable low-income residents. So if you are or know a low-income Corte Madera resident whose ability to make their housing payments has been impacted by COVID, please let them know about this opportunity. This is critical assistance that we're giving out. Applications are online. You can apply until, I want to say it's Wednesday, June 8th, I believe. I think 4 p.m. on June 8th, or sorry, July 8th, July. So, gives us a little more than a week to apply. But I think this is a really important opportunity to help assist our residents who are being disproportionately impacted by, by the pandemic and the economic shutdown. And I think, we've also been having in our community a lot of discussions on social justice, and there's definitely a social justice aspect to this as well. It's these most vulnerable and marginalized residents in Corte Madera who are being disproportionately hit by the economic downturn. So, we're here for all our residents, and we want to help make sure, to the best we can, that all of our residents are able to keep food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. So I just wanted to kind of advertise that important opportunity. Nobody else has their hands up right now, guys. Don't be shy if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about. There we go. There's Susie. Awesome. We'll get Susie in here and then James. Morning, Susie.
You've got your usual suspects out here, so I thought I wouldn't bogart the microphone. I have two questions. One is sort of for Park and Rec, and Eli, you're familiar with this and probably know why I'm bringing it up, and maybe Mike does too. It's a question about gatherings in our parks, and I'm just curious offhand, what is the policy on groups gathering in our parks? I mean, I know that permits are required for certain things, but how large a group could gather and how late could they be? And that there was a complaint in Cove Park last weekend by someone, not me, by somebody else that I was made aware of. And it was difficult. Someone did call the police because it got loud and disturbing to her. And police couldn't come immediately. It was not as urgent as some other things that were going on at the time, I understand. But anyway, that's the basis for that question. So what are the rules just on the park, people gathering there?
Sure. Thanks, Susie. Mike, are you able to speak to that?
I was actually just trying to pull up the current health order. Working in Marin, living in another community and vacationing elsewhere and listening to the news, we're inundated with various combinations of what their current health order is in those the different jurisdictions. I don't specifically have that one. I am familiar with the incident that the police were involved over the weekend, and that was an incident where there was a house party. My understanding it's 10 people or less is what's allowed. I do need to research that, and perhaps I can follow up with you offline following this conversation. I'd be happy to give you what the current standard is. And Rebecca, maybe offhand, I'm punching up on Marin Recovered, but I don't believe it's that. I actually need to look at the actual current health order. RJ, maybe you could speak to that. I'm not sure.
That's exactly what I'm looking up right now too, because I know I had a question that I was trying to get back to this morning about something similar, and the confusion is arising out of the fact that the county did issue guidelines about creating social bubbles, and how people are identifying themselves in those bubbles and whether they're out and about within those bubbles. So I am looking that up as we speak.
Yeah, well, we can all check it out. It's I'm just curious, and it is something that probably the police should be aware of, and the town people too, so that it can be enforced. And anyway, that's all on that subject. But the something that I think we can do something about, as you know, I wear the neighborhood response group hat quite a bit, and it was a friend who made me aware of this, is that our town website is extremely outdated when it comes to neighborhood response. So we need to somebody needs to redo that, that area on the website. It's really, there's so much good information out there for neighborhood response group that it's a shame not to have this be absolutely correct. And I mean, if necessary, I'd be happy to help somebody if it's needs to be corrected. But I mean, for instance, Lori Rice is down there as the contact for NRG. So if you go to NRG News, there's just a lot of incorrect information there. So I'd love to see that cleaned up if we can.
Thank you, Susie. I'll work with Rachel Kurtz, our NRG coordinator, to clean that up. And it may just be that I know that the NRG program has done a lot of work with their personal website, and it may just be that she would like all traffic directed to the new NRG website. So I will check with her, and it may just be an easy fix, and we'll get that fixed before the end of the day.
I'm sure it probably is easy, and I'll bet it is easier to go to the NRG website. There's no use in duplicating a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for making this available today.
Yeah, thanks, Susie. I'll also just mention, since you touched on the website, that so the town is kind of going through a big communications audit right now that's going to result in kind of the revamping of a lot of our communications protocol and infrastructure. So there's going to be a website refresh coming up, not in the immediate future, but in the, sometime probably this year, maybe, right, Rebecca? Is that what we're looking at? Or, okay. Yeah, so that's coming up. So that'll give us a good opportunity to kind of go through, I think, not just the formatting, but also the content, and just make sure that everything that's on there is of use, current, and accurate. So,
but part of this refresh process is cleaning up that content as we go and removing outdated information and replacing it with current information so that we roll everything over. So it will happen slowly as we identify each page and what might need to be updated on each page. And
yeah, that's true.
The NRG coordinator.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. I had the opportunity to talk to the woman who you had her call a few people or something to discuss communication. It was interesting to talk to her. And I also want to say that I just love that the town bark got named. It's wonderful. I was hoping it would be one of the more humorous names chosen, and I look forward to the ribbon cutting. That'll be fun. Thank you all so much. Yes, it sounds like Mike has something.
Well, I just was going to circle back to you. I'm looking at the health order, and they're defining the social bubbles as no more than 12 individuals. But really what they're emphasizing in the health order is to practice social distancing, safety precautions, as well as the use and wearing of masks. And it doesn't really address any other groups of people in larger numbers, but we've seen the protests, we've seen the demonstrations, we've had them in our community, and there has been little enforcement in terms of the social distancing requirements, but we all just need to do our own part to protect our community. So the current website does expand on different outdoor activities, but doesn't really specify anything more than the small bubbles. So that's available, and I can refer that to you as well if you'd like, Susan.
And I did a quick skim of the Corte Madera Community Code, and it doesn't really define it. It only speaks to really minor gatherings, or minors as in underage gatherings.
I mean, I don't want to be a tattletale on people, but sometimes it's important, so I don't know. It's tricky stuff, isn't it? But thank you because I think the town's doing a good job of trying to promote the social distancing and the mask wearing. I noticed that after our last meeting last time, you even did more, and I appreciate it a lot. I'm one of those seniors,
Well, you'll definitely, if you see us walking around the office, you see us wearing our mask in the office and out and about in the community. It's just it takes a village, and we all need to do our part.
Exactly. Thank you, Mike.
Well, I think on our end, especially with the July 4th holiday coming up this weekend and the weather being beautiful and conducive to outdoor activities, I think we'll tighten up the requirements and the regulations and the suggested language on the Marin Recovers and the county's public health website, and we'll put together some guidelines for enjoying the holiday safely outdoors.
Right.
And hopefully we can identify what the intentions are of the current order and how people can take that and apply it to their own activities.
I would guess people are going to flock to Town Park. I just, probably they are.
And just a quick update, the order did allow us to open up picnic areas. So we did that. It should have happened yesterday evening. So that may be new. You may see that this week, and just know that was, approved by the county health order.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
you.
All right. Thank you, Susie.
Thanks.
All right. We've got James up next. You guys, don't let me forget, if we run out of questions, I want to talk a little bit about 4th of July. Anyway, we'll get James on here.
Hi
Morning,
there.
James.
Good morning. I just wanted to add, when we were talking about the website, it took me 10 minutes today to try to find this meeting. And I couldn't find a link to it, and I couldn't find information about it on the website. I went to the last email from the town last week, and I couldn't find it on there. So then I went to an email from 2 weeks ago, and I found a link and wondered whether it would work, and it did. But I'm wondering if there's some way of more prominently displaying these weekly meetings on the website. I typed in video conference, and that didn't seem to bring up anything related to this, and I couldn't think of what other words. So, because I think these are valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you hit it right on the head, and that's exactly why we're doing this whole communications audit with the website refresh, the newsletter refresh, all this stuff. I mean, even these Tuesday chats were an initiative that was part of our whole communications overhaul. But you're totally right that I think we all have trouble finding stuff on our website. I'll be on the phone with residents trying to answer questions, and I'm like looking for information on our website to refer them to, and I can't find stuff. So it's tough, but we are aware of the issue. I think we're definitely working to kind of make some interim changes while we, to hold us over until we're able to revamp the website. I'm sure Rebecca's got something to add here.
Yes, it should be listed on our calendar of events, and it doesn't look like it is for today. It may have just been an oversight, but I know in past weeks it was listed on our calendar of events on the main page of the website. What we did do this morning was send out a news flash reminder to everyone who is subscribed to the news flash, but because the different groups that you can subscribe to that give automated emails whenever a news flash is sent out for that, it's under news and events in our community, which comes after council. So it is in our rotating carousel of news flash updates, but because it wasn't a new news flash, it's just an existing update. It is, you'd have to rotate the carousel 3 times to find that particular news flash. So I think the easy fix to that is just to make sure it's posted on the calendar of events.
Yes, I did. I looked on the calendar of events, and there was nothing listed about these either. So that would be good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we may have just had it listed 3 or 4 times in a row and just hadn't updated that posting.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Hitting on a very timely topic there with communication and all that. And I think also just mentioned, that seems like a good time. We are considering adjusting the day and time that we do these chats, because we've seen attendance kind of starting to drop for our Tuesday morning chats. Not really sure if that's just that, the novelty is wearing off, or if it's because folks are going back to work, which would be great. But we do want to make sure that we can catch, as many residents as possible. So we may start in the coming weeks or months experimenting with different days or times, but we'll be sure to let you know on our website, if this is going to be rescheduled. And Rebecca, do you think that would go out in a news flash if we were going to reschedule them, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. And it will be on the calendar of events, and I would probably make it a spotlight at the bottom of the page where we have rooms for 2 home spotlights.
Okay, great. And I'll post about it on my official Facebook page if we make any changes. So that's there also. Anyways, okay, thanks, James, for bringing that up. We will go to Patty next. Been waiting very patiently.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was so excited to see the effort that San Anselmo did about handing out masks by hanging them in the tree, like we did our wishing tree at the Centennial. And I wondered what the general feeling was about trying to replicate that kind of an effort somewhere around the community center or the park or something, especially as you have been talking about over the holiday weekend. And then there's the wonderful sign that people put up that says, "No mask on your face, you big disgrace, spreading your germs all over the place." That's my absolute favorite one.
That is great. Yeah, I'll let staff speak to that, but I would say I would support efforts to get masks out there, with the caveat that I was eating dinner in San Anselmo the other night next to their mask tree, and I thought it was like supposed to be like a decorative, like Christmassy mask tree thing, and I was not about to. Did not occur to me that those masks were for public use. So if we do it, we'll have to come up with a better way to do it.
Yeah, the sign on the tree said, "If you need one, take one."
Okay.
But you must have been sitting where you couldn't see the sign.
Must have been. Anybody want to speak to this idea, or you can follow up offline if we want. Nope. Okay, cool. Well,
and then I had a
Patty,
question about the thing that I brought up at the Rec Commission, that I know they've been using the Park Madera Center yoga studio, and I know that the bathroom is upstairs, and I wondered, could a bathroom be put in downstairs so that it would be ADA accessible, or an elevator to use the upstairs bathroom? Guess that's an RJ question.
So I'm not intimately familiar with that location. Obviously upstairs would be a bigger price tag. Anytime you talk elevator, it's, sometimes could be $500,000. So I think we would be open to looking at that idea on the lower level and see what it's going to take, if that's a priority of the community. So.
Okie doke. And I love the town bark, and I assume that it'll be very familiar to the Redwood students because of the Redwood bark, which I assume is still a newspaper. So yep. Good going, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. All right, next up is going to be Becky and then Lucinda.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I couldn't find you either, and what I had to do was reboot my computer. You were doing fine. It's just Zoom is constantly making updates to their, and so I don't know if anybody can't find you, you can't tell them to reboot their computer, but once I did, the link worked fine. I have two questions. One, I think we're in a red flag this right now in the upper, up in the hills. And I was wondering what it makes me nervous because I know I'm in Madera Gardens. We always called ourselves the Ember Zone. We're in their Ember Zone. So I'd assume that you guys go on alert when Mount Tam is in a red flag. And the other one, and then I'll just get off. And I'm not being facetious about this. Eli, you do not have to worry because you're the mayor of the town that a parade is going to come after you. But in St. Louis, where the homeowners went outside with guns, and then I've read a lot to protect themselves from the protesters who were marching to the mayor's office, home. Anyway, this is kind of roundabout. A few years ago, there was a shooting in Corte Madera. Someone who owned, I read, 50 guns and he got off because he was protecting his home. He was protecting himself. This is probably not even the time to talk about who has guns in town, but I'm just guessing there are guns everywhere, and it kind of scares me. And that's not really a question. It's just kind of a concern. Anyway, red flag and guns. Okay,
thank you, Becky. Who would like to speak to the red flag? I was just told this morning that there's a chance we might have a PSPS on Sunday, another public safety power shutdown, which would be a very early start to the shutdown season for this year. That would be bad news, especially coming on the heels of, or coinciding with this pandemic. So that would be awful. And then I guess if staff could also speak to, I assume we're not going to be able to, unfortunately, if there were a PSPS event, I assume we couldn't do a charging station at the community center like we did last summer, because I just don't see how you could have, a bunch of residents in the community center safely charging phones. That, that's not social distance. So yeah, anybody who can speak to that, that'd be great.
Go ahead, Mike. No, I was just going to say, I'm looking at CAL FIRE's website. There is a current red flag warning. It expires at 3 o'clock in the morning, unless it's already expired. It says expires June 30th at 0300, so that's already passed. And I missed the other portion of the red flag question, some type of communication outreach with regards to it.
Since we're in the flatland, and most of Corte Madera is in the flatland, I was just wondering, I don't know what you all do to prepare when you know that Mount Tam and Christmas Tree Hill and, those areas, anything 1,000 feet and up was in red flag, and we're not allowed to go to Mount Tam and all those things. I realize I've never read or heard anything we as citizens should do to prepare for that if we're not in the red flag zone. That's all. And if the answer is nothing, that's fine too.
Well, I can just say I've worked in various parts of Marin, and I know on red flag days we're ultra conscious about the types of construction we do. Obviously you don't want to use tools that cause sparks and that sort of thing. So that's one small adjustment that we would make on the public works side, just being conscious of the activities that we take on. That doesn't necessarily speak to, what the community should be doing. Obviously simple things like, you wouldn't really want a fire in a hot day, but anything that's, could cause a spark or flame, should be limited, definitely.
Yeah, Becky, that might be a question for Ruben Martin, who's our fire marshal and acting fire chief. And I don't think he could make this call, but we can definitely follow up with him, and either one of us can get back to you, or we can ask him to circle back with you. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay, awesome. And then, I guess to your second comment on guns, not really sure what to say. I don't personally have any sense of what gun ownership is like in Corte Madera, other than that I've lived here my whole life, and I don't actually know of anybody who owns a gun, but obviously that's not scientific in any way. I think just in the country that we live in, that's always a concern. You never know what people might, have in their house. You get people who just have, some people just have a strange fixation with guns. I don't know. It's just kind of a cultural thing. I don't know if you were speaking to like that you are concerned about, like, with the social unrest we've been seeing, that there might be some sort of violence. But I think all I would say to that is just that if you look at the actual demonstrations that we have seen in Marin County, all throughout Marin County, we haven't seen any violence really. We've seen, a lot of people definitely making a point of showing where they stand on the issue. A lot of people going out and demonstrating in favor of social justice, but we haven't really seen the kind of violence or looting or rioting that other parts of the country have seen. And to me, that just speaks to, who we are as a community and our values. I suppose it's entirely possible that some of those people who were at these protests are gun owners, but people weren't, bringing their guns to these protests. And that is exactly what we want to see.
That's funny. I wasn't even thinking about the protesters. I was thinking about the homeowners and the responses to postings where lots of people said, you're allowed to kill somebody to protect your home. And now is not the time to stir things up. I just was thinking maybe sometime in these messages you guys put out, you might, I don't even know how, it might mention, no, the castle rule does not allow you to kill people for breaking your fence.
Right. This is not Florida. We don't have that crazy stand your ground law, fortunately. But yeah, good point. And I think, maybe our law enforcement officers could speak more to that. But, I will be the first to say, please do not kill anybody in Corte Madera. So anyway, I hope that was somewhat helpful, and we're definitely happy to follow up with, appropriate authorities on both of your points, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Okay. Now, Becca, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Beckman. Just circling back to the red flag warning quickly. I was looking at my phone and I received a Nixle alert from Marin County yesterday saying that the National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning for North Bay Mountains, including Marin, from 10 p.m. this evening until 8 p.m. Monday evening. And you can sign up if you haven't already done so. You can go to alertmarin.org and sign up to receive Nixle alerts from Marin County and others who participate in their Nixle system.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. Alrighty, we will go ahead and take Becky off for now and move on to Lucinda and then Phyllis.
Good morning. Thank you.
Morning.
I just wanted to add my comment to a couple of others that have issued about how difficult it was to get into the meeting today. Previously, the link has been contained in the Chronicles, which I do receive. Now, my next question is, are the Chronicles that come out each Friday, is that the newsletter that y'all keep referring to? Okay, because it wasn't in last week's Chronicles. That's why it wasn't available for me anyway. So, you know, if we could make sure that it is in there, that would be great. And then I'd like to go to the red flag issues. I did get the alert that there was a red flag yesterday, and it did expire at 8 o'clock, according to what I had gotten last evening. It's scary, but the information that was contained on that alert included what all you're supposed to do, what your preparation should be, and it was very good. At the same time, I'm sitting here listening to the sounds outside, and my neighbors are having their regular landscape guy come by, and he's doing using power tools to do the work. Unfortunately, they're still on their gas-powered blowers, so there was that as well. But the weed whackers and everything, and if it's a red flag day, those things I don't believe should be allowed. How to let people know and what the rules are, I'm not exactly sure what to do, because if you are paying attention, one will know that. If you're just kind of taking every day lackadaisical, like most people like to do because they like to live their life and not have to worry about such things, we need to get something out to people to understand what it is. And maybe something that is on the town website, as you're doing through this communication effort, is to add that bing, 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 there's a red flag alert. Here's what you need to do. And that would be right straight up front on the web page. I do get, I'm on Alert Marin. I didn't sign up for Nextel because there's so many emails that come through and so many alerts and things. It gets to be overwhelming, to be honest with you. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on any of the social medias. So the only way I get this information is through Alert Marin or through the town. And we just need to find a way to alert people what's going on, because we don't want a red flag day turn into a fire burn day. So I don't know, I don't have a solution, but I can easily detail the problem. So
Yeah, thank you, Lucinda. Some good points there. You mentioned that your neighbors are using a gas leaf blower, so I'll just remind everybody who's listening that gas leaf blowers are not allowed in Corte Madera as of March. So it's time to start kind of transitioning from gas to electric blowers. You know, if you've got landscapers, please let them know. And it shouldn't be too big a deal for homeowners and landscapers, because these regulations are spanning, I think, also Larkspur and San Anselmo. So likely a lot of landscapers who work in the area are working in other jurisdictions as well, where you're not allowed to use a gas leaf blower. So it's definitely time to start making that transition for sure. I think when it comes to any potential fire hazard related to landscaping, I would definitely defer to CAL FIRE and our fire marshal on what's safe and what isn't. I can understand your concerns, but I think that that's probably I trust CAL FIRE and our own fire department here on letting us know what's safe and what isn't. Did any other staff members want to speak to any of that?
I was just taking a look at the Nixle and the red flag warning, and it sounds like most of what they were doing was closing certain roads to really prohibit people from entering those high-risk zones. So it seemed like one of the main precautions they were taking.
Okay.
Am I still on?
Yes.
Given that this weekend is always an anxious weekend, I love it because it's the birthday of our beautiful country. But on the other hand, it's when people set off fireworks and it's always dry and it's very scary. And I wonder if maybe that somehow the town could put out a special alert. Please be ever conscious of the extreme fire danger we're in, and hopefully we can get past this weekend and the fireworks and everything that so many people like to set off. So it's going to be a difficult weekend, I can tell you. It just is. But hopefully we'll make it all through, God willing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lucinda. That's a good point. I remember, sometime within the last few years, I was on Ring Mountain watching the fireworks across the bay, and somebody was setting off fireworks. It looked like on the side of Mount Tam almost, and sure enough, they started a fire on Mount Tam, and it was, I don't think it got out of control, but it definitely illustrates the dangers of setting off, fireworks as an individual. Don't do that. It's not worth the risk, especially in this crazy, dry, windy weather that we're having. All right, we'll go to Phyllis next.
Hi. After all this, my comment is just a thank you. And a thank you to RJ and your group, because a couple times in meetings, I have talked about the importance of getting the flowers unearthed from the weeds, and especially along San Clemente, and of course our median strips. And you guys have done a lot of good cleaning up in there, and we can see the flowers now. And they weren't able to get to everything, but they got a whole lot of it. So thank you. Thank them for their efforts. And
yeah, absolutely. We didn't forget about it, but we just were a little behind due to the circumstances this year. So glad we were able to get there. And if there's any more, I'm sure our guys are aware of it and they're going to continue on.
But I just wanted to say thank you, because I had before put in so many complaints.
It's okay. Thank you.
That's
awesome.
it.
Anything else, Phyllis?
No, that's it for me this time. Although I echo Lucinda, because the thought of the fireworks and sparks, and like Becky brought up, the Ember Zone, we're on a hillside here, and they've done a lot of clearing, but there's still a lot that could just go also. And so yeah, it's a concern for this weekend, for sure.
100%. And I just heard from the town's resilience officer, that's Marla Orth, who's been working hand in hand with the fire marshal, Ruben Martin, our acting fire chief, and some contractor crews to kind of do this mitigation throughout all of the WUI zones in Corte Madera, and try and basically make sure that our evacuation routes are clear and open for ingress of firefighters and egress of residents. And also just doing some general kind of removal of dead or flammable brush. So Marla reported to me this morning that they've finished all the WUIs, which is an incredible feat that they've done. So huge shout out to Marla and her crew. Big shout out to RJ and his crew as well. Just like you said, Phyllis, Public Works is doing an incredible job, not just keeping the trains running on time in this crazy circumstance, but also keeping our town looking beautiful. So thank you, RJ and Public Works.
And also here in our neighborhood, Marla's crew did a great job of the abatement. So there's been a big difference. So shout out to her too. Absolutely.
We'll let her know. Thank you. All righty. Next up is going to be Susie.
It's me again. So this is the comment that Lucinda made about only wanting to be on Alert Marin. I just want to say it's extremely important that everybody be on both Nixel and Alert Marin. And the reason for that is, Lucinda, they work in different ways. One of them is just a warning that goes out to text, one goes to cell phones, and they're for different purposes. I mean, if you needed to be evacuated, for instance, for some reason, you would definitely want to have both of these coming. And I know it's kind of a pain to have too much information. They're working on that. And the other thing is PG&E's alerts, which you go to your own PG&E account, and you make sure that you are on their list for alerts. Also, that's the only way you're going to really be directly informed about a PSPS, how long it's going to last, and so forth. So you need Nixle, you need Alert Marin, and you need the PG&E alerts. Now, if you go to nrgmarin.org, I believe you should easily be able to find links to all those three. And Lucinda, if you have any problem, you'd be more than welcome to contact me directly. And my email is suzbeatty, SUZBEATIE @gmail.com. I'd be happy to send you those links and help you do that. But anyway, I just want to say the importance. It's hugely important.
And if I may,
thank you so much
to people that are concerned about being bombarded with messages. I just went through mine. I got one message in March, one in April, 0 in May, and 8 in June. So, and there is also a way to hide the alert so it doesn't buzz in your pocket or create a sound if that's, any benefit as well. So, but the information is great. It's nice to be, have the real-time information. So I highly recommend it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just say, for what it's worth, I'm enrolled in the Nixle alerts, and I don't find it to be, I got one, I think this morning, one a couple days ago, but it's not, I don't find it to be, particularly overwhelming, which is good. I think they're being careful about trying to, because, they're aware that you can definitely numb people to alerts if you just have an endless stream going out. So I think they're being good about that. And it's been really helpful to me, honestly, because before I was enrolled in Nixle, I was hearing about all these PSPSs and things just from residents or on, Facebook and things. I'd be like, how do people know about this? Like, oh, why haven't I heard about this? And I realized that it was because I was not enrolled in Nixle. So it's been really helpful for me to be able to stay on top of, various threats as they crop up. Anyways, thank you, Susie, for speaking to that. And thanks also to Lucinda for bringing that up initially. So, anything else from you at the moment, Susie?
Not at all. Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much for this stuff.
Yeah, we're happy to. Thank you. There are no other hands up right now, so we've got about 10 more minutes here if anybody comes up with any questions or anything they want to bring up for discussion. But in the meantime, I've got a question for our staff here. So I was just wondering, obviously we can't do the 4th of July parade, which sucks. It's, it's a big tradition here. It's a big part of, our community's identity. And I think we're all bummed about that, but we understand, right? It's COVID, you just can't do it. So it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of the situation. I had heard, I think maybe a couple months ago, some people throwing around ideas about is there some type of alternate 4th of July event that will be easier to do social distancing that the town could put together. I realized that since then, frankly, the recovery has not progressed the way I think we were all thinking it would back then, and caseloads are continuing to increase in a way that I think we did not anticipate or had hoped they would not back then. So I realized that the situation has changed since, that, I won't say conversation, but just since those ideas are being thrown around. Just wondering if anyone, I don't know, RJ or Rebecca, if you guys have heard anything or could speak to whether there might be a prospect for anything we could do, or if it's just looking too risky right now. Yes, Rebecca.
Thank you, Mayor Beckman. This isn't really my announcement to announce, but members of the Lions Club did reach out to see if it might be possible to lead a patriotic car ride through town. So I know they're looking at that, and they haven't given us anything to officially announce yet, but they are looking at possibly a procession of cars and staff, and the police did tentatively authorize them to do such an activity provided they obey speed limits. So it wouldn't be a slow speed procession. It would be just, I think they're envisioning driving through town in a circuitous route, honking and playing patriotic music and waving to spread cheer and goodwill and patriotism. But I haven't seen any official announcement other than asking if they can do such an activity. And we said,
okay,
yes, provided you obey speed limits and that it's just cars and not walkers and bikes.
Right. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I actually was looped in on that just because I'm in the Lions Club, so I saw the emails, and it looks like, yeah, I was asking, I was like, is this something that you would like us to help like promote? I don't know if we just get like people out, even if people are just in lawn chairs on their front lawns to watch the cars drive by. Sounds like it's maybe going to be a little lower key than that. So they said, probably not worth promoting it. They're kind of doing it, like you said, just kind of like to spread goodwill and cheer, but it's not going to be such a like event for people to come out and watch. I think it's going to be a pretty brief little drive by for most places. Anyway, yeah. So I guess sounds like nothing really cooking at the town level then, as far as we know. Is that more or less okay? All right. I mean, that's a bummer, but it is what it is in terms of COVID-19, and obviously our top priority has to remain public safety, and we know that everybody's going to find a way to enjoy 4th of July anyways.
Well, the issue was the lower speed, slow processions would require shutting down roads. It would require a police escort. And that was just not economically feasible for them to undertake at that time, but they were supportive of their efforts to find a creative way to still carry out the activity that they wanted to try to do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Lucinda's hand is still up here. I'm not sure if that is just left over or if she had another question. So I'm going to bring her back on real fast just in case. Lucinda, do you have anything else?
Yes, I did.
Oh, excellent.
I wanted to ask you, Mr. Mayor, if you would work with Todd and see if we could get Chief Norton to have another interaction with the public and kind of keep this communication line open. I think that we all need to interact with the police and they with us so that there is this community spirit. And if they're kind of remaining aloof and doing their job, that's great. But on the other hand, it's not promoting this community interaction that I think would be very beneficial given the situations that are going on these days. And I just would like to see if we could interact with the police chief and maybe even the fire chief on some kind of a regular basis, similar to what these chats are with you all. Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a really good point, Lucinda. I hear you 100%. I would not describe Central Marin Police as aloof in any way. I think they're really good. And that's one of the, honestly, the benefits of living in a small town like Corte Madera is, we've got less than 10,000 residents. We've got, I think, like 42 sworn police officers on the police force. It's a small community. It's a small police force. And that really, I think, creates an opportunity for us to get to know each other in a way that you don't really have in bigger cities with bigger police departments, where you've got sort of this anonymity. So I think that's a huge asset to us, is that, we can go and meet all of our police officers and they us. And I think you totally hit it on the head there, where it's like, it's those interactions between the police and the citizens that build that trust that is so important to public safety and so important to the police being able to do their jobs, safely and effectively. To your point about these, like a similar type thing here. So they have done coffee with a cop, or I think also like coffee with a firefighter. They might have done as well. I'm not sure, how often those were going on or when they stopped. I think they may have stopped due to COVID. Anybody who has some information here, jump in. But I think that both the police department and the fire department would be more than happy to increase opportunities for public engagement, like we're doing now. I think a virtual coffee with a cop would be an awesome idea. Definitely also, we'll chat with Todd and Chief Norton about whether or not we might do a follow-up to Chief Norton's fantastic community Q&A session that he did a couple weeks ago now. I think that was hugely valuable, great opportunity for public engagement for the community. And I know that Chief Norton and the police really appreciated being able to hear from and interact directly with residents like that. So I will certainly follow up with Todd and the chief about maybe another one of those types of sessions. And then I'll also see if these virtual coffee with a cop, coffee with a firefighter are going on. And if they're not, if we can implement them, because I think that's a really good idea.
Thank you. And please accept my misuse of the word aloof, because our police are not aloof. They do a great job, and I appreciate everything that they do. I just want to have the town know them more, and they know the town.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that I know you are a big supporter of our police and our firefighters, so no worries there. But thank you for bringing up that important point. That's really good.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks. We've got a few minutes left here. No other hands up. I guess we'll give folks on the line another second if they think of anything they want to chat about before we part ways here. You know, Rebecca, RJ, Mike, if you guys have anything you want to mention, go for it. Oh, Phyllis has a hand up here. We'll bring Phyllis on.
Hi. One thing that I was just reminded of when Lucinda was talking about Mike and the police, she and I were in their training for citizens. I forget what we were called. But I wonder if this would be a time for them perhaps to consider doing another one, because we learned what they did. They put us through some of their training, like fingerprinting and what would you do? You're in a dark room and you have a gun. What are you going to do? So Citizens College or Citizens something. Anyway, it seems like this Black Lives Matters, with everything that's going on now, with people wanting to know more about the police, and they don't, that might be good to see if they could do another one.
Yeah, that sounds like maybe a better for in-person type activity, which is obviously tough during COVID. But I think it's a great idea.
Good point. I did forget that.
I know it's so tough to, I don't know. I always find myself thinking like, why don't we do this? And then I realize, oh, we can't do anything. Yeah, but anyways, great point. And I think definitely a fantastic idea for once we're on the other side of this whole pandemic and stay-at-home order. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Phyllis. We're going to go ahead and wrap up here then, everybody. So thanks, everybody, for taking the time to be with us this morning. Like I said, we're going to, I don't know, probably in the next couple weeks or month or so, we're going to probably start experimenting with other times, but we'll be sure to publicize those really well so that everybody knows what time and what day they can join us. And we will look forward to continuing to speak with you guys every week. Alrighty, everybody, take care. And thanks to everybody who asked questions, and thanks to staff for being here.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.